Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Thunderstruck Super Series Roberts Power Grid 125 here from North Wilkesboro Speedway. I'm Zach Wetstein. I'm here tonight with William Paisley. How you doing tonight, Will?
I'm doing pretty good. Looking forward to some very old school racing here at North Wilkesboro. Obviously, the track doesn't really exist anymore, but since this is sim racing, we have a pretty much perfect copy of what the track used to be from, I believe it was 1986, right? That they tried to reproduce?
1987.
1987. All right.
Yep, half-mile track and length, 85 degrees is the track temperature tonight, and we'll jump into it first of all with you, Will. This is a difficult track, no matter what way you look at it, but specifically turn one can kind of be a blind turn when you go into it. So take us into that a little bit further.
Yeah, turn one's a little bit difficult, right? Because it's downhill and it's very kind of hard to get yourself into the corner and just kind of ride that bottom, right? So what you kind of want to do is there's a little bit of the track where it's a bit washed out from just not really being run on very much. So you can use that as a bit of a guide to flow yourself into the corner, and then you just kind of hold that bottom until it's time to accelerate out, and then get yourself as far up the track as you can without hitting the wall when you're accelerating, just to try to bring as much momentum out of it as you can. It's a very difficult corner, but if you get it right, you know that you got it right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And when we talk about passing here, turn one, maybe not the place you want to do it. You see here in turn 3 and 4, Ryan Bean qualifying, maybe the place these guys want to make the passes tonight in the braking zone. But we'll see. Once we get into the race, we'll see really where these guys are trying to pass, if at all, because it's going to be tough to pass regardless here tonight. Ryan Bean goes to the pole spot, and we'll explain to you guys once again, if you're new to watching this series, these guys, the top 15 qualifiers are into the main race, and 16th on back, if there is more than 20 drivers per night, will race for the rest of the 5 positions, and we'll fill the grid up to 20. So tonight we have 22, which means that we'll have 2 people that will not make the main race. And right now we have 20 qualified, and Joaquin Meza on track right now.
Yeah, Joaquin has done relatively well in this series so far. I believe he was in the top 10 last week, top 5 actually, I think, if I remember correctly. And hopefully he'll end up doing well here as well. Let's see what his first time is here shortly. Comes through with a 18.0, and that's going to bring him into the main event. So good qualifying from him.
Yeah, Joaquin last week, he had to battle in the B main to make it, and he did. And I'm actually getting the stats from last at Bristol.
I know he had a top 10, but I don't know if it was top 5.
Joaquin finished 13th at Bristol, but I mean, even finishing 13th, he battled his way through the B main just to get there, and he started outside of the top 15. So while you may not want to finish 13th, he's at least able to battle from his, let me check, 20th starting position. So he finishes 13th, which can look bad, but that's up 7 spots from where he technically qualified for the race. So he's looks like he's locked into the main tonight, so he doesn't have to worry about that, and he'll be already inside the top 15.
Yeah, and that's always a big relief when you're in these qualifying events to where you have to either make it in on speed or race your way in, because you never want to end up leaving it to where you're going to have to race your way in, because that's always going to end up in a situation where you're just in a lot of pressure and you're putting yourself into a lot of risk that other people are going to be really close there and ready to make contact with you. So you got to be pretty careful about it if you do go down there, and hopefully you can just run away when you get there.
All right, well, the first race of the evening, which will be the B main, it will start off with Christian Dedman on the pole and Keith Lichtenwalner on the outside row of the front row. Second row, Michael Swank and Mike Uribe. Third row, Philip Manzo and Mikey Keller. And rounding out the field in the B main, Elliot Longenecker. We'll see if everybody does grid. Right now we only have 5, and there we go, Mikey Keller 6. So no matter who else grids, if Elliot Longenecker does or not, which we'll see if he does. But even if he doesn't, we still have a battle going on for that 5th position with Mikey Keller starting 6th.
Oh, for sure. And for a couple of these guys in here, it's a bit surprising to see him in here, especially like Elliot Longenecker. I'm surprised he didn't qualify, and now we're not even seeing him for the heat, it looks like. And like Michael Swank, he's pretty quick. Keith Lichtenwallner usually makes it through. And Christian Dedman, I believe, also usually makes it through. So it's kind of surprising to see a couple of these guys down here.
Christian Dedman was pretty fast in practice, but maybe just slipped up in qualifying. He finished 6th last week at Bristol. So, yeah, he's known to be pretty fast in the series. And currently, I believe he is in no, I don't think he runs the series as much. He is outside the top 10 in points. But when he does race, he is fast inside the top 10. So a little surprising to see him starting here. But I think unless he gets caught up in a wreck, I believe he will make it. And it'll be interesting seeing him coming from either 15th or 16th or even further back than that if he does fall in this race. But yeah, it's still gonna be a great race here. And like I said, we have 6 cars on track and only 5 can make it. So everybody's going to be fighting tooth and nail to get every spot they can, whether it's Christian Dedman trying to keep the lead. Just stay as far away from that 5th position as you can.
Oh, for sure. And you definitely don't want to be the guy who ends up wrecking in this one with only 1 spot out, because that'll end up catching you. Well, I mean, then there's kind of no hope of it, right? Because after that, everybody's going to probably be taking it just a little bit easier because they all have a position. Obviously, you want positions for the starting or for the start of the main, but at the end of the day, you got to make it into the race. So definitely don't want to be the one who wrecks here and is going to be kind of the only guy who would end up going a lap down.
Yeah, and a bit of a shame. I see Chud Bassett said his internet went down. He finished top 10 last week, so he has no internet right now, so that's why he's not here tonight. And also, Aaron Ward is calling out Keith Lichtenwallner. If he doesn't make it, he's gonna tell Jason, and apparently he knows what that means. And I'll leave that to those two. But I guess Lichtenwallner on that outside row has some pressure on himself to make that main race.
Yeah, that's a story I definitely want to hear at some point in here.
The green flag is out, and speaking of Keith Lichtenwallner, he stays side by side with Christian Dedman through turn 1 and 2, and he's going to get a good run off, but they are still side by side going into 3. Lichtenwallner clear for the lead.
Yeah, good move from him there. It looks like Christian Dedman kind of wanted to take it a little bit easier into the first corner, and sometimes at a short track, you can kind of make it work on the outside, especially at a track like North Wilkesboro that, I mean, really the outside actually works here when you're battling somebody. So having that extra momentum, especially in the SKs, which rely on all momentum to get pretty much anything done with these cars, you really don't want to give up that top if you can avoid it. And Christian kind of did sort of just get forced to have that with the race start. But yeah, good on Keith Lichtenwallner by managing to keep it around the outside and keeping it there, because sometimes that inside can just get away from you.
A lot of racing going on here for really the top 5, which that can get dangerous. The top 5 is currently 2.5 seconds at least ahead of 6th place, and the one thing you cannot do right now when you're in this protected bubble of making the race is cause a wreck. So Christian Dedman going to the outside as Michael Swank's going to pass him, and you just got to believe Christian's going, I just don't want to be wrecked.
Yeah, so long as you can stay in this pack and don't get wrecked, you should be able to make it through to the main. But if you're if you're Mikey Keller, you're sitting there thinking, oh, please wreck, do something stupid. You just want to have them in front of you guys racing just super hard like they are, and hopefully something will happen. But it's been pretty good racing up here at the front, really. I mean, they've been able to get right next to each other and actually pass each other.
Michael Swank from third to first in 7 laps here in this B main. He takes a hold of that lead position, and here comes Keith Lichtenwalder in hot as he is able to avoid him and will settle in the second position with Christian Dedman right behind him. But Michael Swank, coming from third to begin this race, has put himself in a position to start 16th in the main race.
Yeah, and I would have expected Michael Swink to be able to get up here and race with the best of them. He's one of our faster guys in this league, and just managing to be able to get to the top spot here in the heat. And I mean, it's looking pretty good for him so far. He's looking like he's got a good amount of speed. He must have just kind of messed up his qualifying.
Philip Manzo is passed by Mike Uribe, so that puts him in that 5th position, a second and a half of over Mikey Keller. So that time between Philip Manzo and Mikey Keller is starting to shrink just a little bit. Right now, Philip is in a good position with 10 to go, but he can't let up too much with still 10 laps to go, and you just don't want to give that 6th place driver an opportunity to get to you and see, you don't want to see what happens there.
Yeah, and if you're Hitman, you may want to start looking at the guys in front of you and starting to try to do what they're doing in terms of their line, because you want to make sure that you can at least keep up with them. Maybe try to keep the draft on them, and just keep it up. So that way you don't end up having to fight for 5th, which could end up bringing somebody else into the equation.
Well, it looks like Mike Uribe, who's been blinking kind of all race, has kind of backed himself out of the battle. So he's now in that sixth position. And looks like maybe he's just doesn't want to, make his blinking a concern in the main race. So looks like maybe he'll finish 6th on purpose, which you never like to see it with the internet problems. But it's at least admirable of him to notice that, a blink could cause a problem and maybe cause a wreck. So I don't know if that's what he's doing. I won't say that is what he's doing, but he did fall all of a sudden from 4th to 6th. So you can think of that what you want.
Yeah, and I bet that it was a definite issue with his internet, that he just wanted to stay out of it and not risk any wrecks or anything like that just from the internet connection. So good on him for doing that. You obviously don't have to do that. I often don't because my internet is pretty terrible here. But good on Mike for being kind of the sportsman here and I guess making sure that everybody else would be relatively safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael Swink, Keith Lichtenwalder, Christian Dedman, Philip Manzo, Mikey Keller, all in a position to make the main event here tonight with 4 laps to go. I don't see a caution in the future, so all these guys have to do is ride it out for coming to 3 more laps, and they'll be in the main event. It's starting 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th, but at least you're in the main event.
Yeah, and it's looking like the cars can actually be able to pass each other tonight pretty easily around that outside if you can get there. So starting 16th might not actually be a death sentence. We've got 125 laps to make your way through the field, and I'm sure we're going to have a couple cautions in there that'll tighten it back up for you. So finishing anywhere in this heat is pretty good when it comes to starting the race, especially if you think that you're going to have pace for the actual race.
I got to tell you, Michael Swink, we looked at him coming into this B main. One of the surprises that were in this B main. We're not used to seeing that. So he's going to come around and collect the checkered and make it into the main event, and he is looking dangerous from that 16th spot or starting spot. Or not.
Yeah.
I guess he's going to give that up, and maybe he wants to start on the inside. Maybe that was a call from Michael, like, I want to start 17th on the inside instead of 16th on the outside.
Yeah, and he's clearly thought that he's found a line that he wants to take here at the start, because you don't usually see people back off like that for getting into one of these events. So Michael Swink clearly thinks that he's going to be better off starting on the bottom there, and gonna be ready for the event. And I think he's probably gonna want to try to pass some people, maybe get to the inside of him, and use that line as his preferred line. Who knows?
Yeah, well, we'll let these guys for about a minute and a half warm up, and we'll be right back, but we'll leave these guys on screen for you to watch. All right, we are back. We're about 30 seconds out from the start of the main race, and we'll go ahead and take a quick look at your schedule. Tonight is the last night we'll be running these SK modified cars here at North Wilkesboro at Nashville Fairgrounds. Next week, we start with the Wheel and Tour modifieds part of the season, where we go to Nashville, Lanier, USA Stafford, Five Flags, and finish out the season at South Boston Speedway. So it's been a fun time with these SK modifieds, and looking forward to seeing these guys in kind of that upper level modified.
Oh, for sure. And those upper level modifieds, I think, are a little bit better of a car, just because they have that bit more horsepower. So they're a little bit faster. They're just a little bit more aggressive to drive in a manner of speaking. So it should be really fun once we get to those. Not that obviously we're not going to have a lot of fun tonight here at North Wilkesboro, especially with it looking like everybody's going to be able to pass, which is always a good thing to see. And definitely looking forward to the second half of the season, especially with the new car coming up and it being just significantly faster.
Absolutely. Front row, Tanner Marr and Ryan Bean. Tanner Marr with the pole tonight. Second row, Josh Oswald and Mickey Isaac. Rusty Modesty, 5th. Casey Kuntz, 6th. Logan Sturgeon starting 7th. Scotty Stevens, 8th. 9th is Garrett Kinder, and running out the top 10 is Cody Boehm. Kyle Roberts will start tonight 11th. 12th is Harold Rothery. 13th, Joaquin Meza. David Hall, 14th. And David Gorino, 15th. Keith Lichtenwater with that win in the B main, 16th. There's Michael Swank in 17th. Christian Dedman, 18th. Mikey Keller and Magic Mike Uribe round out the field in the back row, and we are rolling.
Yeah, I think it slipped under the radar just a little bit that that Magic Mike ended up making it through.
Yeah, that actually is. I didn't expect to see that.
Yeah, I wonder what happened, because we didn't end up seeing it.
Huh. That's a good question.
Well, good for Magic Mike. Welcome to the main event. All right. We're going to have one more lap around. Just realized my trading paints was off, so everybody's got the default looking paint.
I was trying to look back at the stream, but I realized and I forgot that the timing screen doesn't like to work in the main B main. So I'm not for sure what happened, but hey, Mike Uribe's in the main event, and we are getting ready to go green. Tanner Marr, your control car. Ryan Bean on his outside. The pace truck is off, and the green flag is out, and the battle's on for the lead early.
Yeah, and it's looking like they're having a bit of a stack up in that third lane there. Should be equaling itself out here momentarily, though.
A lot of battling going on, and we have a car. Tanner Marr, trouble early, gets loose out of turn 4 And wrecking right next to him. Big wreck. And Christian Dedman, Michael Swank a part of it, Logan Sturgeon, and David Hall. I think it started with Logan Sturgeon and David Hall. And we're going to clarify what happened there and who that was between.
Yeah, Tanner Marr got loose out of the corner, probably just cold tires, maybe a little bit of nerves from starting up in the lead. But they ended up going into the corner. They ended up going into the corner 3 wide. The 26 of, I believe that's Logan Sturgeon. Yeah.
Yep.
He ends up going up high and making contact with the 70.
Oh man, David Hall goes up in the air and onto the roof, and not the start to the last race for these SK Modifieds for some of these drivers that they wanted.
No, that's definitely not the way that you want to go into the second half of the season for sure. You always want to be riding just that little bit of momentum that you can get from having a good finish here coming into the halfway point.
Yeah, absolutely, and failed to mention, but we're about to reach that halfway point, or we're at it. Ryan Bean with the lead and the points, and a pretty big lead. It looks to be about 45-point lead over Josh Oswald. And Ryan Bean, with that trouble from Tanner Marr, is out in the lead early. Josh Oswald right behind him when we go back 2x2.
Yeah, and Ryan's been so consistent so far this year. I think he's won maybe, 2 or 3 of the races?
He has won 2 races.
2 races, yeah. He's won 2 of the races and always been up front since I've been here. He's been looking really good so far, and it's definitely not at the time where you want to start counting your chickens before they hatch, but you may want to start thinking about driving a little bit safer, maybe not going for some of the risks of pushing for going to the lead, but maybe managing point loss more than anything.
Yeah, Ryan Bean has an average finish, and it's best in the league of 3rd so far in the season. And sometimes you see when you see a guy have, and they're going to go single file here, it looks like, when you see a guy, really high in the points, they don't always have the most wins. They just have that best average finish, and they always finish inside the top 5. But with Ryan Bean, he does both. He's won 2 races and also has the best average finish in the league.
Yeah, and sometimes that's all you want. Here we go, green flag, and he got a really good jump here.
Yeah, really nice jump. And I don't know if you noticed, but this track has been completely shadowed from the cloud, or from the sun, by the clouds. So this track's going to maybe cool down, gain a little bit more grip than they had before. We'll see how long it lasts. The caution is out. Harold Rothery, no, never mind. Mike Aribe, I thought I saw Harold Rothery's name. I apologize.
Yeah, it was Mike Aribe. Trying to see exactly.
Looks like he just got loose out of the turn.
He clipped the grass on the inside.
Yeah, there it is.
Irish grass is basically freshly watered, and sometimes there's just no saving it.
Well, usually in streams I have to worry about, what camera I want to be on, but not at North Wilkesboro, because they have TV1, TV2, and TV3, every single one of them the same, so I guess I don't have to worry much about that tonight. I tried to switch over to TV2, and it's just the same thing.
Oh yeah, and it definitely makes things a little bit easier on us when there's only one option that ends up being anything. So maybe we'll end up having to show off some maybe in-car cameras or something like that just to make sense.
Absolutely. As 2 quick cautions here, that caution's going to give David Hall a chance to get one of his lap backs after that early caution, the first caution anyways. I believe he went a couple laps down just because he was on 3 laps down because he was on his roof and he had to tow. And at a track like this, any short track in this series, and you have to tow, you're going to lose at least 2 or 3 laps.
Yeah, with short tracks and everything, I mean, there's not much that you can really do when you're stuck on your roof unless somebody wants to go over and try to unflip you. you're going to go a couple laps down. But luckily, at short tracks, a lot of people end up getting into wrecks. So long as you can stay out of those, you probably will end up getting your laps back at some point.
Yeah, you just gotta really have patience at short tracks and make sure you don't give up too early, because like you said, if you're patient and you stick it out, there'll be enough wrecks most likely that you'll be able to get those laps back. But David Hall does have a little bit of a mountain to climb here with 3 laps. I believe he was 4 down, I guess, before he took a lap back. So still has a while to go, but these quick cautions keep happening, and he's going to be right back in this race. And a tough way to start the race for sure, but with it only being a lap 11 of 125, you definitely have time.
Oh yeah, for sure. So there's no point in fighting too hard for these positions, I think, at the moment. Just kind of settling in, getting into your spot, and then maybe trying to work forward from there might be the best option for everybody in the field.
Yeah, the only bad thing for him is with that wreck, Mike Uribe did go a lap down, so if we have another caution and it doesn't involve Mike Uribe, he will get that lucky dog. So David Hall either going to need some help from Mike or just need some help with even extra cautions with that being the case. As the green flag is back out here at North Wilkesboro Speedway, a single file restart's going to maintain the lead for Ryan Bean, Josh Oswald, and Mickey Isaac behind him, second and third. But it's kind of gotten separated for the lead, but definitely not in the back of the pack.
Oh yeah, the back of the pack is where you're going to end up getting most of the fighting most weekends, because you'll have a lot of guys who are probably around the same relative pace, and then you'll have those 1 to 5 people who are just gone. And sometimes that's just how the cards go. You may be able to go into pit road and change a couple things with tire pressure to help your car, or I guess in the case of the NASCAR's, ride height. But these are only very small changes that can only get you so far.
Oh, and Rusty Modesty spins Scotty Stevens around, and that'll be our 3rd caution.
I actually missed what happened there.
Yeah, I just happened to be on those 2 as they were battling, and unfortunately, Rusty kind of dove it in there, and just a little bit of, and that's the kind of the consistent thing with these cars that we see. Barely any contact to that left rear, and you're going to spin somebody around.
Oh, for sure. And a lot of it tends to be because of how much momentum these cars are trying to carry into the corner. You're on about the limit of what the tires can do when it comes to the to your individual setup. So those tires are right at that limit of trying to slip or kind of slide. And so once you make contact and it disrupts that, you're just going to have it to where it's going to try to spin out on you. And sometimes you'll save it, sometimes you won't. It's sort of just the question of how quickly you realize that you're being turned.
Yeah, and if we were at Bristol, that's a lot easier to save, honestly, at Bristol, just because of the banking. It really makes that easier to save. But when you're at a track like North Wilkesboro with just such less banking on it, that can be a lot harder to save that car. It has some banking, but very little of it. And when your car gets spun around like that, all of your momentum is taking you to the wall, and there's not much to stop it at all.
Yeah, and at tracks like Bristol, you have so much banking that you can kind of rely upon to catch that rear tire, right? And at a track like this, it's just, there's not very much banking here at North Wilkesboro. I mean, there's actually not a terrible amount for a lot of short tracks, but it's just not quite enough to where if you're on that limited grip, you might not be able to save it if you end up getting hit just a little bit too hard. Obviously, that ends up meaning that Rusty is going to be put at the end of the line, and that should be kind of interesting, seeing him try to make his way back through the field.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, well, I'm trying to get it. The turns have 14 degrees, which is actually kind of surprising to me a little bit, but 14 degrees in the turns and 3 degrees on the straight. So Not, yeah, like you mentioned, not terrible banking, but just not Bristol. Like, obviously, Bristol is one of a kind when it comes to short tracks. And when you pay attention to the NASCAR world, it sounds like they're maybe trying to build a similar track to Bristol, just longer straights, but at Auto Club, going to be pretty banked turns, and it's going to be a short track eventually.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that, but I'm also kind of not at the same time, because that's kind of the track that I go to every year, and I really like Auto Club for it being a very fast track, right? And bringing it to a short track kind of gets away from that, but it sounds like they have a really good idea with it, kind of Martinsville straights with Bristol turns, so it should be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think they're going to be using part of pit road to be a part of the track, so it's going to be fun to see. But it's going to obviously be a couple of years. So we'll wait to see what happens there. The green flag is back out, and there is a bunch of racing going back in the field. Keith Lichtenwalner is up to 12th, 4 spots up. Michael Swank into the top 10 and making a look to pass on David Guarino for 9th.
Yeah, and he's got to just try to keep it in there and keep him steady. We'll get a run on him if he makes a slight mistake. You don't want to end up giving up too much, though, because you got a guy behind you, and you want to be careful about that. So just try to keep your position, maybe not push too hard, and just wait for a mistake on their end, so you can kind of shove your nose in there.
And we got a wreck.
The spot.
Keith Lichtenwalner's around.
I did not see what happened. I saw that he was slow.
Him and the 78 of Cody Boehm get together. And that is going to only help David Hall right now, as he's going to get another lap back with the Lucky Dog. Right now, he is currently, well, I got to wait on the timing screen, because that is the one thing iRacing Live Timing does not show me. 70 laps. So he's still 3 laps down, because Mike Uribe got the Lucky Dog last time, but it's going to be 2, and with the rate of these cautions, he'll be back on the lead lap in no time.
Yeah, and about the wreck with Keith, it looks like he just ended up coming off of the wall pretty shallow coming out of the corner, and the 78 of Cody Boehm, I mean, there's not really much that you can do with that. The general rule of thumb is that you kind of want to go to the wall if you're on the outside, just because you don't know what that guy on the inside is going to be able to do, so you got to give him room. And when you end up pinching like that, sometimes you just end up getting into a wreck. So hopefully Keith can kind of learn from that and try to keep it up towards the wall, especially since he kind of ran a little bit wide anyway, coming into the corner, and just try to keep that momentum up, keep it out there, so that way the car coming to the inside, you don't end up making contact with by pinching.
Yeah, if you're on that outside, you want to pinch that low line as much as you can so you can get a better runoff and make a pass, but you got to be very careful with that car kind of gliding up and then, you two making contact. So it's definitely a give and take kind of track, and a lot of tracks are like that, but especially here, we talked about turn 1 and the exit of turn 2. With that being so complicated, if you go in there side by side, you kind of got to give that low guy a little bit of room for error, just because it's a tough turn.
Yeah, tough turns make it to where you have to be kind of kind to the guy that you're actively trying to work against here. So you got to be a little bit more careful with it, give them just a little bit extra room, and you both should be able to make it out of the corner if both of you guys do your jobs.
Well, Ryan Bean took the lead away from Tanner Marr. Tanner in 5th place right now, had an early mishap, but saved the car, and he'll start on that inside row in the 3rd row, or inside on the 3rd row. And Ryan Bean looking for his 3rd win on the season. Obviously a long way to go. We just reached under 100 laps to go a little while ago. So, while there is a lot of laps left, Ryan Bean kind of is where he always is, in the lead and in that top 3, looking for another victory.
Certainly. He's looking pretty good so far. Hasn't really had to do too much green flag racing against anybody. So hopefully we can get some green flag laps in here, and then we'll be able to see what's going to end up happening. And for Tanner Marr, who started on pole, obviously he's not out of this yet. He managed to save the car. He's in P5, so it's not like he's in a bad position. So he can certainly get up there and try to fight for this still. And then we have our guy in second in points with Josh Oswald up in third and actually looking like he's wanting to go for second. So maybe he'll be able to get his nose in there, get P2, and then try to track down Ryan Bean here.
Yeah, Ryan Bean has a lot of winless drivers in this series around him, and you know all of them are going to be hungry to pass him. But right now, in the back of the in the back half of the top 10. Right now, the battle for, it looks like actually 10th, Logan Sturgeon on the inside of Michael Swank. And there is a lot of action going on in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, and you got a lot of people who are fast and a lot of people who maybe just had a really good qualifying lap and their race setup just isn't quite good enough for what they need. And so in these starting few laps, especially when it's some of the first few green flag laps that we're going to be getting, we need to, you always need to try to figure out where you're going to be in terms of relative pace and kind of get there, and then you may be able to work just a little bit forward from there. But until then, the middle of the pack is always usually pretty bunched up. And if you're one of the faster guys, it's not always what you want because you're going to be stuck behind some people. And we have another caution now.
Scotty Stevens looks like he was around. He is slow on track, so I only assume. Yep, there he is. And we are going to check out what happened to the O2 here as he, oh, that's netcode all the way, unfortunately.
Yeah, not much you can do when netcode strikes because you have to race around people cleanly, but sometimes iRacing just says no.
Oops, I accidentally fast-forwarded there. If we take a slower look at this, you'll see pretty obvious that they never make contact and an invisible bubble pushes them into the wall, unfortunately.
He got that little bit of a force field on him, doesn't he?
Maybe it's not netcode. Maybe just a force field around that 39 of Mikey Keller.
I mean, I'll take a force field any day.
Yeah, really. You can't hit me. You can only try.
Yeah, if you can manage to kind of take out your competition in that way, I mean, I guess that's a strategy, right? If nobody else finishes, then you can finish first.
So I want to take a quick look, really, at this entire top 10. I think the only person in the top 10 right now who has a win besides the 28 of Ryan Bean is the 76 of Garrett Kinder in 5th place. But other than that, Josh Oswald, Mickey Isaac, Tanner Marr, Casey Kuntz, Joaquin Meza, David Gorino, Kyle Roberts, and Michael Swink all looking for their first win of the season. And as Ryan Bean, you got to be happy you're up front, but you got a lot of hungry drivers behind you trying to get that first win.
Oh, certainly. And with Josh Oswald being second in the points and not having any wins yet, he's going to be hungry for one of those wins. You always want to be winning in racing because winning equals points, and points equals championships. So you got to think that he's thinking about trying to get up into that lead, and maybe being a little bit rough to do it. Who knows? Then we have people like Michael Swink, who's already moved up all the way from P17 all the way up to P10, which is obviously a really, really good start for him to the race. And he might be pretty hungry to try to go for that almost last to first challenge.
Yeah, so if we take a quick look at, and I think Mike Uribe has had some issues because he's actually behind David Hall, who's still 2 laps down, I believe. But yeah, we have the I was trying to.
Tracking one lap.
Okay. Michael Swink, and yeah, like you mentioned, in 10th. Trying to look for Mikey Keller. He's in the 16th position. Christian Dedman, 15th. Keith Lichtenwater, 17th. and Micah Uribe 19th. So Christian and Mikey Keller are both up 3 spots, but obviously that 30 machine of Michael Swank has been the driver to beat out of the B main anyways. So we'll see if he has winning pace, and we'll figure out here as the race goes on. But here comes Tanner Marr, who had the pole position for this race, and he's looking to eventually try to get that spot back, fighting for third right now with Mickey Isaac.
Yeah, and if he can keep it on the outside there and maybe get the 01 to get slowed up by the 17 just ever so slightly, he's going to be able to carry that momentum around and keep the position as he just does. And now he'll be able to try to go work on the 17, see just how fast this car really.
Sorry to interrupt you. Big wreck on the front stretch, unfortunately.
Looks like the 68 of David Guarino, and was it
David Guarino gets loose, and Harold Rothery nowhere to go. Just absolutely nowhere to go for that 71.
And sometimes you just get stuck and you have to just hold the brakes and hope it doesn't do too much damage. And that looks to be like it was one of those times.
And David Hall is loving this site right now as he's going to get another lap back. And I think that's going to put him 1 lap down. Maybe on the lead lap. I can't remember. I'm horrible at keeping track of these things. But it's either going to put him on the lead lap or 1 lap down. So he's looking better and better as the cautions go by. It's showing him down 1 lap right now. So 1 more caution, which you have to imagine we'll get with the rate of cautions we've had. And again, he'll be right back battling for those lead lap spots. As you see, he goes around there.
He actually was trekking 1 lap down last caution, so he should be on the lead lap now.
Goes around the pace car, and there you go, 19th place, David Hall, and that puts Mike Uribe, the only car lap down, and now in the lucky dog spot. And if we do have another wreck, as long as that person doesn't go a lap down, we'll eventually get all of our top 20 back on the lead lap.
And never would I have thought that with 44 laps in, we would have only 1 person a lap down at North Wilkesboro. It's been kind of an exciting one so far, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's just, this track is definitely tough, and I mentioned how you kind of got to give somebody that is below you or above you, but mainly below you, room to make error just because this track is so tough, and that's kind of what we've seen tonight. It's just one car makes a simple error, and unfortunately another car gets caught up in it, and that's just kind of the nature of the game sometimes at short tracks. We've seen these guys put on some good races, but North Wilkesboro just, it's a tough track, and it's showing that right now.
Yeah, it's certainly a tough track. It's just one of those things of it might be time for these guys to try to just calm it down a little bit, get some laps under their belt, maybe get some of those nerves out that you've had, and that you've had just building up in you just from kind of sitting here and waiting behind the pace car, getting kind of anxious and thinking, okay, these laps are ticking down. My chances are slowly starting to go away from me the more that this carries around. But you definitely need to calm down just a little bit and get some of that edge out, and you should be pretty fine coming here to the rest of the race.
Yeah, you really got to get into a rhythm at these short tracks, and that's one thing these drivers have not been able to do so far. And when you constantly have to restart and stop and restart and stop, you just are not allowed to get into a rhythm. And Ryan, I'll take Ryan Bean for instance. He's been in the lead the whole time with all these cautions, but he hasn't been able to get into a rhythm. And will that affect him at least one of these times on these restarts? And we're about to find out as he goes and gets a really nice jump this time. So he'll be fine going into turn 1. Josh Oswald along with him, Tanner Marr on the inside, looking to solidify himself on that 3rd position, but just not able to do so. Mickey Isaac, a fantastic run on the outside. And yeah, Ryan Bean so far on this restart doing a nice job of holding the lead.
Yeah, and he'll definitely be fine here for the first couple laps. But the question is, with how many times that we kind of went and stopped, has he been taking care of his tires well enough? Because after you get through multiple heat cycles, those tires start to do some weird things with just they don't really quite give you the same kind kind of yield that they used to, because they've kind of molded and deformed from where they were, just because they've been heated up and cooled down as much as they have, and any kind of handling characteristic that you had just gets worse and worse the more times that we start and stop.
Feel a little bad for Logan Sturgeon. I think every time I've seen him tonight, he's been side by side. I'm not sure I've seen him single file once tonight. So if he can try to get past what looks like Cody Boehm, which he does, he finally, well, he's leaving that bottom open, and I think that's maybe why, but he's able to finally get single file, but maybe not for much longer with Joaquin Meza right in front of him.
Yeah, and Joaquin's running that high line as well. Actually, he just cuts down. But you can kind of use that high line as a bit of a defensive position. So it's always a good idea if you know that you're not going to get past the guy that's in front of you, but you're still going to be able to keep up on him. It's sometimes a pretty good idea to just kind of run that high line and use the momentum out. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's working for Joaquin here, as he's also being held up a little bit by the guy that's in front of him.
We have side by side, almost 3 rows deep here, as Michael Swank leading this group. This is for 6th place, Michael Swank, now up 11 positions from his starting spot in 17th. Now looking to find his way into the top 5 with Garrett Kinder about a second and a half ahead of him. But right now, Ryan Bean in the lead, getting into a little bit of a rhythm, and a half-second ahead of Josh Oswald.
Yeah, he's definitely started to find his rhythm here and just kind of pace the field, really. He's not really pulling away from him, but he's not really getting caught by any of them either. So he might be trying to pace the field a little bit here. That, or the other guys are just pretty fast at the moment, and who knows if he's been able to save any tire.
I'll ask you a question here right quick while we're under green. Obviously, Ryan Bean been really good so far in these SK modifieds, but will he be able to carry this speed and pace over to the bigger modifieds once we go over to the Wheel and Tour? So will he be able to keep up that pace and keep up this winning, or will we maybe see some new faces in those cars that just are faster in those than these?
Yeah, that's actually kind of the question, right? Because the aero side of things, and we actually have a caution, but the aero side of things is very similar in the tours. I think it's actually the exact same, but the car is just faster and has more horsepower. So it'll be kind of a question of, can he adapt to just having the more horsepower and being able to have to wheel it just a little bit more because of the wheel spin. And quite honestly, I think he can. He's done pretty well to show that he at least can carry the momentum in the car, and I think he's going to be able to still at least be competitive, if not be up here and still fighting for wins.
Unfortunately for Kyle Roberts, Mikey Keller kind of comes up into him and hits him, and that sends him into the wall and then into the grass. We're starting to see a couple of cars down pit road. Christian Edmond and David Gorino are down onto pit road, but nobody else following him, not even Kyle Roberts with that damage to the back end.
Well, I mean, if you're sort of towards the part of the field that you don't necessarily want to be, like kind of where Christian Dedman's been for a good amount of the race since he started down there, sometimes it's just kind of worth it to try it, see if pitting and taking tires can maybe make a change for you. The complexion of your race, because you'll be a little bit faster, not that much faster, as we see the 68 David Garino actually going a lap down from pitting. But it might end up helping you out here if you can just get just a little bit extra of an advantage on people. Having fresh tires, freshies as I like to call them, sometimes that could make the difference. Oftentimes, it's not as big of a difference as you would think, though, in a car like this. But if you're in a position where you're only going to lose a few spots, maybe 1 or 2 spots, or even upwards of like 5 spots, sometimes it's just worth it to try it and see what happens.
Well, when we get down to the back stretch, we'll be halfway, as 125 lap race here tonight. as we go to collect lap 63. Obviously, the first half of this race kind of riddled by cautions, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. There's always, two halves of a race, and we're getting into the second half of this race. No halftime like other sports, but still, you're getting into the second half of this race, and an opportunity to kind of refresh yourself and try to get a long run to the end of the race. We'll see if these drivers are able to do that here.
Yeah, and I hope so, because I really like seeing these cars get into the longer part of the run, because that's when you can see who set up their car for having a lot of longevity, right? Because you may be able to build your car to be fast for, let's say, 50 laps, but sometimes you'll end up having that car burn off those tires, and that's kind of the question, right? You want to know if your car can do that, or if you just built it because you are betting that you're going to have a lot of cautions.
Well, we're about to find out. Ryan Bean, the green flag is out. Mickey Isaac and Josh Oswald once again. We've seen it every restart, fighting for that second position, and I thought we might have somebody get loose behind them, but they're able to keep it straight. Michael Swank there in the 7th position, struggling a little bit on the outside, but he's able to get to Casey Kuntz there. We've mentioned his name, in previous races. We haven't mentioned him much tonight. He started 6th, and he's in 6th right now, racing Michael Swank for that position. These restarts are really a chance to see if Michael Swank has anything for these guys up here, because we've seen him work through the field, but as you get closer to the front, the harder it's going to get to pass, and you can see Casey Kuntz making it really difficult for him to get that 6th position.
Yeah, and the farther that you get up, the more tires that you've also used up than in comparison to the guys who've already been there. So Michael Swank's got himself a little bit of a challenge here, doesn't he? Because he's got to be able to stay ahead of the guys that are behind him that he's now having to battle, and he's got to try to stay in front of or try to get in front of the cars that are in front of him, have better tires than he does. Yeah,
absolutely. I was racing Homestead earlier, and I unfortunately qualified horrible. Not horrible, but 11th at Homestead in those Cup cars. The air on the front end of your car is no bueno, and we have a car spun around under caution here. But you want to be as clean of air as you can in those cars, and I had to battle through a bunch of, as much as you want to save, if you're in that middle of the pack or worse, we're going to see some pit stops here. Ryan Bean, nobody else going to follow him, it looks like, though.
That's a little brave. I'm not sure if that's going to work out for him.
Yeah, we'll see how well that works out for Ryan Bean. But when you start in the middle of the back of the pack, even if you want to save tires, it can be really difficult because you cannot give up too much time to the leaders, or saving tires won't matter.
Yeah, for sure. Saving tires is always an important part of racing, but you have to figure out a way to do it without actually losing pace, which that's where the really good guys shine over the guys who are just pretty good. The guys who can manage to seemingly find pace out of nothing, they're the ones that you got to watch out for. So always a interesting situation when you have people pitting, just to try to get an advantage in terms of how much tires they actually have. But it's going to be even more interesting, I think, if everybody else just tries to stay out and see if they can maybe struggle on those tires all the way through the rest of the race.
Yeah, I'm not sure how well this is going to work out for Ryan Bean, if I'm being completely honest with you. He's been fast, but he has to pass 11 cars to get back to that lead, and that's just a tough thing to do.
Yeah, you never
55 laps. Sorry about that.
Oh, certainly. No problem. There's always going to also be the question of what is he going to do if they all end up pitting and he doesn't, right? Because then he's going to be on old tires and he's going to have no help behind him. And believe me, I've been in that situation many a time where you're the only guy out there and you don't really have all that, and you don't really have any kind of tires or anything like that. And it's a scary feeling when you know that you can that you're just about to get swarmed. So this is kind of an odd situation for Ryan here. Just hopefully he'll manage to be able to get out of it okay.
Well, we're going to find out, and we're definitely going to keep an eye on it as he tries to work his way through the field on this next restart, as speaking of that, we get gridded back up 2x2, and on lap 73, we go back to green here at North Wilkesboro Speedway in these SK Modifieds for the last time this season in this series as we head to the Wheel and Tour Modifieds next week. Looking forward to that, but still racing left to be done in these SK Modifieds here tonight. And up front, we got some drivers that are going to try to get their first win of the season.
Yeah, and this should be pretty exciting because for somebody like Josh Oswald, who's second in points, this is a golden opportunity to gain a whole bunch of those points back. So he needs to get up there and go and try to take this lead and win.
Mickey Isaac does a really nice job early on at keeping the lead on the restart as Josh Oswald behind him in second, Tanner Marr third, and it is a busy track with Michael Swank in fifth place, still racing Casey Kuntz as Michael Swank in the 30 on the outside. On the inside is the 31 of Casey Kuntz, and these two will not stop battling each other.
Yeah, Michael Swank's looking like he actually does have a really, really fast car tonight. Kind of unfortunate for him that he had to start so far back, but I mean, that's the kind of risk that you play when you don't end up qualifying well. Manages to get himself clear and in P5. Let's see if he can go try to hunt down the leading four now.
As I think we were through wide for a quick second, here's Joaquin Meza, and there's Ryan Bean fighting out for the 10th position as Ryan Bean gets by him quick and now looks to the back bumper of Logan Sturgeon. So he's into the top 10, but let's see if he's able to make quick work of these guys in front of him. With how lined up they are, that can be tough.
Yeah, with them being very bunched up like this, it can present some very golden opportunities to pass people, but at the same time, it also provides a lot of opportunities to get involved in incidents that you probably shouldn't have, as well as get passed from behind. So Ryan Bean's got to be patient here, but he's also got to be rather tactful with his moves. Try to make them stick and get through the field as quickly as he can, because those tires, while they're significantly fresher than everybody else's, he's got to get moving or he could end up finding himself stuck back here and no way of getting back up to the front group before the end of the race. Oh my gosh, we are 2x2.
Yeah, and Ryan Bean, he's doing a nice job so far, but I was going to say, you know, he's had a fast car all night so far when we've had green flag laps, but you never know how your car's going to handle in traffic, and Ryan Bean's car is really handling well as he is making passes left and right as he's now side by side for this 8th position, not the 7th, sorry. 7th position, Ryan Bean on the inside, 78 of Cody Boehm on the outside. But Michael Swank and Casey Kuntz, I mentioned, are battling it out all race long, and they still are. Casey Kuntz finally wins that battle, and that only helps Ryan Bean more since they're not side by side in front of him.
Oh, certainly, and it doesn't really hurt you too much with the dirty air in these cars. I mean, dirty air rolling on these starts to become an issue once you're getting past about 150 miles per hour. So with these cars getting up to about 113 to 114, he's not really in a bad position when it comes to being stuck in the pack. It's more of just trying to figure out his way through more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you may not have dirty air, but if they're 2x2 in front or side by side in front of you, there's really nowhere to go, even if you have a better car, unless you force it 3 wide, and that's just not smart. So Ryan Bean now up to the 5th position, currently 3.5 seconds back from the lead, but more importantly, 2.4 seconds back from Garrett Kinder, who he needs to pass first to get to the 4th position, because you got to take it one position at a time. You can't really start thinking about Mickey Isaac when you got to pass 3 people to get to him.
Yeah, you got to be thinking about the next guy in front of you and how you can get in front of him. So Ryan's just got to get it moving now and try to make up that time. And with the fresher tires and how long we have left in the race, actually, we don't have that much time left in the race. It is a short track, and it's only 125 laps, and we are on lap 86 at the moment, soon to be 87. He's starting to run out of time, so he's actually going to want to caution here, to be honest. If he wants to get that position back, he needs to he needs to have a caution come out and help him out here.
We have been sorry, we have been talking about Ryan Bean, but we have not been talking much about Tanner Marr since he almost spun out. But here he is in second, making a run for the lead here with less than 40 laps to go now. It's really hard to forget about him, but with Ryan being up front so long, we kind of started to. But here he goes to the inside, and if Tanner Marr gets clean air, he got the pole for a reason, and if he gets that clean air, he might just say goodbye to the rest of the field.
Yeah, Tanner has had a fast car all night. He made the one mistake right at the start of the race, which cost him the lead. Which, I mean, sometimes that is just how it is. Sometimes you just end up making a small mistake like he did and spin the tires, and that costs you positions. But luckily, we've had enough green flag runs or green flag laps to show just how good of a car he really does have this time.
Yeah, I was watching a race in person, well, on TV live, and they mentioned how, I think it was the Daytona Road Course, how when you're following somebody, you kind of have that person to use as a marker for when you're braking. But once you get past them, you don't have that marker anymore, and you got to look for something else. And all of a sudden, you might lose some speed. And Mickey Isaac, they're a little bit of distance now between them, but ever since he got past, he's done a decent job at sticking with him.
Yeah, and I've always been of the idea that you really don't want to be using other cars as your braking points, because while that can help you a little bit when you're behind them, that also can lead you to making the same mistakes that they do. So you want to be really careful with that, because if they send it in, say, 50 feet later than usual, but you've been using them, you're also sending it in 50 feet later than usual. So that could mean the difference between making the corner slightly faster than the guy in front of you, or you following him right into the wall just as much as he went into the wall. So you really need to be careful with that and stick to using your actual braking points that you've had throughout most of the night. Obviously, you want to make sure that you're not running them over, because we just see Mickey Isaac just tapping the wall, running a little bit too wide there. But for the most part, you want to be trying to look at the side of the track and find what it is that you should be looking at when you're braking. And it's looking like Tanner has, well, got that kind of on check at the moment.
Absolutely. Tanner Marr starting to run away with it, and Josh Oswald and Garrett Kinder really making Mickey Isaac think about it as he's looking in that mirror, and he's got a mirror full of cars. And for Ryan Bean, you see him back there in fifth, and that pit strategy is just not working out. He really needs a caution at this point, or else it is not going to work out, I don't believe anyways. With less than 30 laps to go, he's in that fifth position, but around 2.5 seconds back from Tanner Marr. And again, I'll say it again, Tanner Marr for a reason started on the pole. He just made a mistake early on, and that's why we didn't see him and Ryan battle it out. But Ryan, he made a pit strategy call, and Tanner Marr has taken advantage of it so far with a 0.6 second lead over Mickey Isaac now, with we're coming to 27 laps to go here soon. So Tanner Marr kind of taking advantage of that pit strategy call from Ryan Bean, and Ryan maybe just, he's got to think that there was going to be a caution with how many cautions we've had so far.
Oh, for sure. It's not exactly gone to plan for Ryan here. He got stuck behind a whole bunch of people battling, which obviously that's their right to do. They were in that position, so they were more than within their rights to start battling for it. It's just a situation of, I mean, sometimes it's hard to get through the pack, and maybe he used up a little bit too much of his stuff now because it's not really catching them anymore like I would have thought that he would have been. So he kind of needs to get bailed out here with a caution if he wants to have any chance at this.
As we are down to 24 laps to go, and Tanner Marr isn't really running away with it. He's kept it at a manageable distance with half a second lead now over Mickey Isaac, but he is in no way running away and has to still be perfect, because if he slips up like he did early on, Mickey Isaac's right there to pounce on him.
And I've been watching Mickey Isaac a little bit on his onboard to kind of see what he was doing. more so to actually check to see if he got any damage from hitting the wall. But he's keeping that car just a little bit lower than Tanner Marr here, and he might be trying to save a little bit of tires with that, because you can save just a little bit of tire by running that low line, because you're running a little bit slower speeds. There's also less track there, so long as you're not scrubbing the tires off by turning too much, you can save just a little bit of tire in comparison to the guy running a slightly higher line. So he might be able to do that and keep his tires just a little bit fresher than Tanner in front of him. And that might be keeping him in this. Who knows? Maybe he'll end up being faster towards the later part of the race.
The only thing you can't do that you saw Mickey Isaac do there on your screen when we were on board with him is hit that curbing in 3 and 4. If you do that, it's definitely going to slow you down and maybe scrub off a little bit of tire because of it. And Tanner Marr's starting to build a little bit of more of a gap over him with 20 laps to go now. And Ryan Bean is like, where is my caution? Where we had so many when I was in the lead. Where are they now when I need to get back to the lead?
Yeah, and about the hitting the curbs, you need to be really careful about that with the SK Modified. Not necessarily because you'll end up wrecking from it, but these cars are so momentum based that when you do that and there's a disturbance in how much power is actively being applied to pushing you forward as opposed to, I guess, climbing a curb, you're losing just a little bit of speed, and it's going to cost you over the next bit of the lap until you have to slow down again. And it's looking like Mickey is starting to lose just a little bit of his pace relative to the guy behind him. I believe that is the 17 of Josh Oswald. So he needs to be kind of careful here not to actually get caught up and lose his position here, because Josh is looking pretty fast.
Ryan is watching this going, Josh, please make some contact with the 01 for my sake. But Oswald, you actually saw him back off there. He's going to keep this race as clean as he can.
Got a caught.
And, oh, no, Keith Lichtenwalner on his roof. And there is that caution.
He's going to need about 2 whole bandages for that one. Oh, he hit the exit, the track exit.
Oh no. I think that might kill someone in person. If you're in a real car and you hit that, oof.
I mean, that's going to hurt, but luckily it wouldn't be on the driver's side. So, I mean, he might be okay with the wall being kind of curved in the way that it is, but I mean, it's certainly possible. That was a big incident.
Yeah, that is what they might call one heck of a lick to the wall. So let's hope Keith in that car is doing okay. Maybe he doesn't have to go to the hospital since it's iRacing. But man, what a hit to that wall. I mean, that you feel bad for him because he wrecked, obviously. But man, I haven't seen a wreck like that here, at least in these cars like that.
No, he was carrying a lot of pace down the straight and just ended up clipping it. And I mean, iRacing isn't without its actual injuries for people. If you're using something like a direct drive wheel and you hit that wall, I mean, that thing will rip right out of your hands, and it puts through almost as much force as an actual wheel. So it's possible that when you hit that, it ends up hyperextending your thumb and tearing some stuff up in there. And you want to be really careful with that because you don't want to end up breaking a thumb or maybe even your wrists if you were holding it just a little bit wrong.
As we are going to have a restart with a round, what looks like if we get the 1 to go here, 11 laps to go when we go back racing, we'll see if the lights go off in the pace truck. Doesn't look like anybody's lining up just yet.
Hopefully everybody can get out of pit road the pit. The 30 of Michael Swank did pit. And he's going to have a lot fresher tires now, but I'm not sure if that was the right idea at this point. I think you kind of just had to take what positions you were going to get from that. Because pitting now, I mean, you got, I believe we're going to get, what is it, 10-lap shootout, give or take?
Looks like it, yep.
He's going to be having to push really hard to get through them now. This isn't like the NASCAR series is like the trucks, Xfinity and Cup, where I mean you run 3 laps and the tires are dead. I mean, these tires are kind of designed to run the whole 125 laps. So pitting might not have been the right strategy here out of Michael Swank. He may have just cost himself some extra positions from it.
All right, well, we're going to have 10 to go when we go back racing. Tanner Marr, Mickey Isaac, your front row. Josh Oswald, Garrett Kinder, your second. And your third row, Ryan Bean and Casey Kuntz. So it's not over for Ryan. He still has a chance, but it's still going to be tough from that third row. But it's all going to unfold here at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Like I said, with 10 laps to go, the green flag is out. Tanner Marr, a good enough jump to get out to the lead. Mickey Isaac going to challenge for that, but he has Josh Oswald on his low side as well, side by side. And here comes Mickey Isaac to the lead. Strong move on the outside.
Oh, and he's going to be trying to go for that. He wants that win really badly now. But we see Josh Oswald getting it underneath.
Oh, and contact.
Oh,
Heartbreak for Mickey Isaac here at North Wilkesboro. He was looking to have at least a podium finish, and heartbreak for the 0-1.
And it looks like he came off too low. I mean, we talked about it earlier in the broadcast about how you kind of want to go to the wall when you're on the outside, especially when they're all really close like this. And I mean, that's kind of all she wrote for Mickey Isaac there. He kind of stayed off of the wall and then got turned for it with everybody trying to push so hard at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he'll probably blame Josh Oswald. And I mean, Josh did get into him, but as the 17 car, you're thinking, like you said, that he's up next to that wall and you have room to come up. And really, he didn't give him room to come up. But still, Josh Oswald did come up and make contact, so we won't put that on Mickey Isaac. But put it down as really just as a racing incident. I mean, we're under 10 laps to go. You're racing hard for second, and unfortunately, they make contact.
Yeah, I mean, these things happen. Obviously, I don't really like assigning blame for a racing incident like this. So, I mean, it's just one of those situations of it's kind of unfortunate that it happened. But it looks like the 0-1 kind of came out of it a little bit worse than the 17. But that does put Ryan Beam up to third, which could be very good for him. It could also be very bad, depending on how the run goes.
Yeah, and that puts Josh Oswald in second, so he has a chance at his first victory. And Garrett Kinder in fourth. He's looking for his second victory of the season. And Harold Rothery up 7 spots from his 12th starting position here tonight. So a lot of names up here in the top 5 that could get a reoccurring win, a second or a third win, and also some names up here who could get their first win of the season with Tanner Marr, Oswald, Garrett Kinder, Harold Rothery. All these guys looking for their first victory of the season, and they just I don't want to say this in a mean way, but they want to keep Ryan Bean from winning again. You know, they want one of them without a win to get a victory. So they're going to do all they can to keep Ryan Bean from winning it. But in the end, it's all about you. You want to win the race. You're not trying to help other people. So it's obviously going to be everybody for themselves. And you got to think Josh Oswald saw what Mickey Isaac did on that last restart and how hard he charged that outside. And obviously it didn't end up working out. But you got to think Oswald kind of did his homework there and was like, I can dive pretty deep into turn 1 on that outside.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to take some notes from that. I think it all is going to end up coming down to just how good of a launch he's going to get here on the outside, whether or not he's managing to keep it right next to Tanner Marr, or if Ryan's going to get a better jump on the inside and start fighting him. Because Josh is going to want that win with him being in second in the points and Ryan being right where he is. He really needs to get up there and try to take it and get some of those points back, because while it's a big lead now, momentum is a big part of the sport, and that can mean all the difference, just gaining some of those points back now.
3-lap shootout for these drivers here at North Wilkesboro. Great restart, and we see more contact. And they're going to wreck. There's no way they didn't wreck. Wow. Oh, but they're 3 wide back here. Wow, wild racing here at North Wilkesboro. I cannot believe they did not wreck there.
Yeah, the 17 came down just a little bit too soon there.
And wrecking behind him.
Oh, big wreck. Walking got into it there.
Oh, and Mikey
Oh.
gets some of that. And oh, no, someone was on the roof just as I started to reverse it.
Oh, and I think Tanner's not going to be very happy about that because he had a good start. The guys behind him tried to wreck each other, so I mean he kind of got a little bit lucky off of the start, and then now he's going to have to do it again.
Man, the 89 goes on his roof, and I think he got stuck there, unfortunately. Or I'm trying to tell who's on the roof. I saw 89 on the car, but I'm not seeing 89.
68.
68? Oh, okay. He was just upside down. That's why. David Guarino, who was upside down.
Yeah, I think that's the first time he's been upside down. Not the first time we've seen a car upside down tonight.
Absolutely.
But it's gotten pretty wild here now. Mickey Isaac actually gets himself his lap back, by the way. So, I mean, at the very least, he's probably going to get a consolation prize of finishing on the lead lap. Not actually what he wanted, considering the speed that he showed tonight, but not the worst that it could be. But if you're Tanner Marr, what are you thinking here? Let me ask you that question. What are you thinking here? What are you trying to do?
Just get as good of a jump use as you can. If you get a really good jump and catch the rest of the field off guard, there's nothing they can really do with only 2 laps. So just you obviously have to focus on turn 1 when you get there, but I'm putting a lot of focus on this jump to catch everybody else off guard because Garrett Kinder, Josh Oswald, Harold Rothery, obviously Garrett's won a race, but we've mentioned it all night. Somebody trying to win their first race, along with Tanner Marr. He hasn't won a race this season. So you have the leader with no wins, and you have 3rd and 4th with no wins. So everybody here is going to try to get every ounce of track they can. You got to believe that 3rd place Josh Oswald is going to be right on the back bumper of Tanner Marr. And so, yeah, Tanner Marr's just got to focus on the restart. And if he gets a good enough jump, I don't think there's anything anyone else can do.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's also thinking about when he's going to have to jump here. When you're sitting here thinking about it like this, you're sitting here in these laps, you're kind of thinking, should I try to go around this area of the track? Should I maybe wait just a little bit longer? Like, you're always prepping, right? You're always thinking about what you should be doing, right? You kind of have to visualize it in your head. And ultimately speaking, you're never going to end up actually using that plan. It's just a thing of you're always trying to think of what would probably be about right. And so maybe you're spinning up your tires a little bit during the caution or something like that. But most importantly, what you're doing is you're watching your competition. If you're Tanner Marr, you're watching what the 76 is doing, less than the 17. Because the 17, if he gets a good run, isn't as big of a deal because he's actually behind you. But the 76, he's right alongside of you. So you got to watch him, and if you can get a good jump on him, like he just did, then the 17 is going to be fighting the 76.
The green flag. The green flag is out. 2 laps to go. The battle's on for 2nd. Garrett Kinder, a great run out of turn 2, and that's going to get him actually pretty close to Tanner Marr. He's still side by side with Oswald, though. And 1 lap to go now. Tanner Marr controls the field. And again, the battle really is just on for 2nd as Tanner Marr. All he has to do is run 2 more flawless corners, and he will be good for the win. Around 3 and 4, the battle for 2nd is heated up. But the battle for the lead is nowhere. Tanner Marr out of turn 4, going to win at North Wilkesboro. And Oswald is able to finish 2nd ahead of Garrett Kinder, who finishes 3rd.
Yeah, and a great night for Tanner. Obviously, with the mistake, wasn't ideal at first, but he proved that he had one of the fastest, if not the fastest car tonight, and just kind of dominated once he got back into the lead. Let's see if he can try to do a burnout, or if he's even going to attempt it. Nope, too much grip in the tires. Oh, there he goes. He got it. Yeah. Sometimes you can get him to spin it up. It's really hard to get it to spin up, but once you do, I mean, you can keep it going. But
This is the one thing I've talked about with other people in iRacing, is iRacing needs to severely update their smoke because these burnouts do not look half as good as they should because the smoke just disappears immediately.
Oh, for sure. I think that they should probably go like, you remember those old like EA NASCAR games back in the day? I kind of wish that those were that we had the smoke that those would put up, where instead
Yeah.
like stay around and linger for a while.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, it does in real life. It lingers. So we'll see if I completely doubt it. But hey, iRacing, if you're somehow watching this, update your smoke package. All right, let's get some better burnouts in here because these drivers do a great burnout, and you don't give them. It doesn't serve it justice when that smoke all disappears. But great run here tonight. We won't take the focus away from a great run tonight from Tanner Marr after an early mistake is able to edge out the win. And so we're going to go ahead and pull him in here if we can find him. I don't even know if he's in oh, there he is. Okay. I found him. Hey, Tanner, Zach and Bill in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you loud and clear, buddy.
Well, you got the pole spot, and then you kind of made an early mistake. Looks like you got loose out of 2 or 4. I can't remember which turn, but you got loose early, and you had to fight back ever since, and you were able to get to first. Take us through it.
Man, I had a pretty bad self-spin on, I think, what was it, lap 1? And I was pretty mad, I can't lie. And I was actually really mad because I know I took a few people with me, and it was nobody's fault but my own. But like I always do, man, I go to the grid and I start clicking arrows, just trying to loosen the car up, and the car was just way too loose. Ryan Bean, Garrett Kinder, Josh Oswald, I think all of them were faster than me, but just track position played such a big part into tonight.
And congratulations on your win tonight. Definitely was a very entertaining one to watch. But once we had that green flag run and you were out in the lead, you kind of stayed up there. You weren't really moving too far away from anybody, but you weren't like getting caught and attempted to pass. So were you just trying to manage your tires, or were they just a little bit faster than you at that point?
I don't know if the broadcast really shows it or not, but I was really tight on the exit, but I was wrecking loose as soon as I would pick my foot off the throttle at all. Which, I mean, in these cars, you try not to use brake because they have no torque or whatever. So you try to stay in the throttle just a little bit. But anytime I would brake 100% throttle, I would be wrecking. So I tried to save the right rear as long as I could. I know Mickey was, for a while, he was like 0.6 off of me or something like that. I tried to manage that. There were times he got closer than times I would pull away. But I think if it wasn't for Ryan Bean getting caught up in a caution that I think the caution already came out and he hit somebody or something like that. I think Bean had the fastest car tonight. Josh Oswald, he's always super fast, and Garrett's fast. Like I said earlier, it was just track position. They definitely were faster than me. I just got lucky that it fell in my hands the way it did.
Yeah, well, congratulations again, man. It was a fun one tonight, and well, you brought home the victory.
Thank you, Will. Now I just got to try to figure out how to win these Sunday races that you're in with us. Seem like you beat us a lot.
All
It's
right.
always fun.
So, Tanner, you got any sponsor shout-outs you want to throw out there?
Absolutely. I'd like to extend a huge shout-out to MF Racing Designs, Michael Falk. You can go over on Facebook. He does all of my paint schemes, all 5 Kings Motorsports paint schemes, Rocket Racing setups. I mean, they're proven winners. You either get one or you're going to chase one. That's their slogan. And then thebuttkicker.com for Butt Kicker and Rocket Racing. You can use promo code 5Kings, gives you a nice little discount. Mention us to Michael Falk, get you a good discount. And to all the admins over here, Oswald and all them, I know they do a lot of work for this league. And Zach and Will, thank y'all for calling the action every week.
All right, man. Well, congrats on the win tonight.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll move on to second place, Josh Oswald. Josh, Zach, and Mo in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir. I got you. How you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing great, and it looked like, you had a pretty fun time out there. I know you had that incident with Mickey Isaac, but other than that, a great race. And just take us through how your car was handling. We saw you in that top 5 a lot, so you obviously had the speed to be up there.
Yeah, in the beginning it was great, and then when we got that long run, the car was getting really tight in the center. I felt like if I could have, Tanner got a great restart at the end. I felt like if I could have stayed a little closer to him, we could have made it a show. But Garrett and I put on a hell of a side-by-side battle on the green-white checkered, and as clean as it could be, it was a ton of fun.
Yeah, and congratulations on your second. You managed to finish ahead of Ryan tonight, and with you being second in points to Ryan, that means that you close up the championship battle just a little bit. But what I really want to ask you about is how did you save that car, man?
I don't even know. I mean, the spotter never called anybody to my inside. I moved down, and it had to be either net code or we just barely clipped and hooked it to the right and stayed on the throttle and hoped to God it would stick.
All right.
Even I thought I was going around. So.
All right.
Well, congratulations again, man.
Thank you.
You got any sponsor shout-outs you want to throw out there, Josh?
Magic Mike Motorsports for taking care of our series here, and just all the guys that help keep this together, all the guys at Thunderstruck and my teammates, try and do the best we can each week, and it's been pretty good so far.
All right, man. Well, congrats on second place tonight. Looking forward to seeing you next week in the Wheeling Tours.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to the tour mods, more horsepower, bigger tires.
All right, and Garrett Kinder, last but not least, third place finisher tonight. Zach Mill in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Well, you started ninth tonight. You were able to battle your way all the way up to third. Were you confident in your car tonight with how it would handle in traffic, and did it live up to the expectation?
I was somewhat confident, but definitely not where I needed to be. I didn't get that race set up finished until about 10 minutes left in the practice session. I was falling way behind on it, but overall, very good car. I think Oswald and I had our car set up very similar. I think there might have been a gearing difference, but that's about the only thing. He was able to get me off the exits, but I would reel him in on entry. Heck of a race. It was a good time.
Yeah, congrats on your third. You had a bit of a quiet night tonight, I would say. Didn't see you too much battling up with the top couple guys, but you managed to pull in the P3 tonight with just kind of keeping it clean. So, what was your strategy with trying to stay away from the kind of craziness that happens during these races?
Well, I knew here that cautions are bound to happen, so just trying to look ahead is pretty much what it boiled down to. I about got tied up in the same thing that Ryan got tied up in with the caution car that was stopped on the side or right in the middle of the track. I almost ended my night real quick right there, but you pretty much nailed it, just staying clean and just trying to avoid the best you can.
All right, well, congratulations on your P3 tonight. You had a pretty good one. I'm sure that this will end up helping you out in the points, trying to catch up. I mean, you definitely end up catching up to Ryan with that. So, congrats again.
Thanks, bud.
All right, you got any sponsor shout-outs you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I want to thank Magic Mike Motorsports for being the sponsor with the series. Of course, thank you all guys up in the booth at Rebels Racing Network. Thank everybody over at the Thunderstruck Super Series. Joaquin, Josh, Jason, all those guys, they're absolutely phenomenal. Want to give a special shout out to Josh. I wouldn't be where I'm at short tracking if it wasn't for him. So big shout out to those guys and everybody over at Full Send and Reaper Racing.
All right, man. Well, congrats on your podium finish tonight. Looking forward to, again, like I said to Josh, looking forward to seeing you in the upper class cars next week.
I'm ready.
All right. Garrett Kinder, your third place. Oh, I moved over here. I was moving you, Garrett, and for some reason it moved me. So we're gonna try this again, all right? There we go.
There we go.
All right, Garrett.
Welcome back.
Garrett Kinder, your third place finisher. Don't know why that happened, but Discord will be Discord, I guess. But yeah, that was your top three, and I guess our question got answered at why Ryan Bean had to pit, and that was just due to getting caught up in that accident where the caution car was in the middle of the track. So that's very unfortunate for Ryan. Very fast tonight, but he does pull back a top five finish, so that'll help him in points at least to stay at a sizable distance. So nice race from him, regardless of unfortunately being caught up there, and he fought back. So fun race. That second half was really the better part of the race. Obviously, that first half was kind of cautions after caution. But Will, take us through your last thoughts about tonight's race.
Well, tonight's race was certainly a wild one, right? We had all of those cautions at the start of the race, but we started to open it up like we usually do towards the end. Everybody starts to settle in. Very interesting to see Ryan pit. I mean, it sounds like he had the incident at the end, which is unfortunate. But for him, I mean, if a top 5 is your bad race, then, I mean, you had a pretty good season. So I think from here on out for him, for the most part, it's going to be a lot of just risk mitigation, just trying not to get caught up in anything. And yeah, just really looking forward to, I believe it's next week is Nashville Fairgrounds, right?
Let's take a look at that. Yep, Nashville Fairgrounds.
All right. Well, Nashville should be pretty fun. We're going to have those tour modifieds, which are going to be faster and should be very interesting. I think we might see a little bit of an uptick on incidents at first, just because everybody is not going to really be used to having that much horsepower, especially when they're going to be around everybody. So this will be interesting if we see that, and who knows, maybe they'll come out and go green the entire way.
Yeah, absolutely. Fun first half of the season with the SK Modifieds, and really looking forward to the Wheel and Tour Modified cars next week in Nashville. For those who have been here through the entire first half of the season, thank you for tuning in every week for the first half of the season, and we hope that you'll tune in for the second half and for the championship race eventually at South Boston Speedway. So yeah, once again, that was 125 laps here tonight at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Thank you for tuning in. Tomorrow night we have the Thunderstruck Super Series late model cars here at North Wilkesboro, so make sure to tune in tomorrow night. It's been Zach Wetstein, William Paisley in the booth. Have a good night.